Andrew W.K, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, you doing okay?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think too much about that question or I'll think myself right into not being okay.
I know. I think if any of us, the number of people that you pass in the hallway in the daytime who just go, "Hey, how are you?" and you just go, "Good." I think if you started answering that question honestly, we'd be having a lot of different conversations.
Yeah, well, I if I really take stock, am I okay? I don't know. I guess that's the more honest answer. I'm not sure.
But you're feeling okay right now. You're feeling good here, sitting down at the piano is what I'm asking.
No, definitely not.
Oh shit, why not?
Well, that's just the nature of the game. It's a game that is nerve-wracking, but I'm familiar with it. So it's an old familiar friend disguised as an enemy.
Are you the kind of person who feels more at home when they're sitting down in front of a piano?
No, not necessarily. I don't. I always feel uneasy in general. But in that way, I guess it's no more disconcerting than anything else.
Right. Well, then let me ask maybe a more practical question, then, and we'll stop being so analytical.
Okay.
When you first sit down at the piano, say when you're at your home, do you have like a grand piano at home?
Maybe.
Yeah. When you sit down at the piano,
Yes.
what's the first thing you play to kind of warm up?
Well, lately I've been working on this piece. It's like. Like that.
Who's that?
Now that's by the J.S. Bach, the main Bach, the daddy.
You're not the CPE.
Right. There's he had a
Not
lot
the
of
JC.
kids. A lot of kids.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been playing.
Well, what piece is it?
It's a German title, and I think it means now comes Christ, the Savior of all things, the Savior of the world. I think something like that.
It's a beautiful piece. It feels almost like a study because of the way the scale ascends there.
It's a prayer. A very old woman who owns a piano store in Los Angeles that I went to recently, where I was meant to perform much like this. It was the last time I did a piano performance.
Yeah.
A few months ago, I did very poorly.
Yeah.
And she was trying to make me feel better. And one thing she said, we talked about, well, I was playing that Bach piece, trying to warm up. Yeah. And she said how all of Bach's music is a prayer. Each piece is a prayer. And that's something I've really noticed about his pieces, even especially when they're quite short, if they're quite concise, and you can conceive and see the piece as a whole. If it's 3 minutes long, 2 minutes long, something like that. Yeah. He has encapsulated the entire human experience, all its ups and downs, every shade of emotion, every triumph, every failure, into a melodic pattern, and then devotes it to the heart and soul of all things, depending on how you look at that, what he would call God. And I wouldn't disagree with him. So yeah, that song is a real, they're all prayers, but that one's really intense. Whoa.
I mean, that's how I felt about the Goldberg variations the first time I heard them, is because, and that piano was the Glenn Gould rehearsal piano.
Yeah, that's what you said, and that's why I didn't mean to insult it earlier. I wasn't trying. I think I had a growth spurt, I think, the other
While
day.
you were sitting down.
And now my knees are longer.
I think about Gould that way too. I think about Bach that way too. Is that I think like the reason that there are variations is that he's presenting us with an idea of like, what is life? Here's what life is. Right?
Yeah, well
here's what
said.
life is, and here's how your life and your perspective on life is altered through every single emotion you have.
Yeah.
So it's the same piece of music, but it's through the lens of being angry, through being jealous, through being envious, through being happy, through feeling nothing but sheer joy. Of abandonment, and I think we forget that classical music, especially solo piano music, can really do that.
Oh yes, because there's nothing to distract from it. That's what is so nice about instrumental music in general, is having the openness and the focus being on melody and rhythm, and trying to tear away at all distractions or distortions of that essence. But how he was able to one, recognize this core truth of life, but then illustrate it. And then pay tribute to it. He's finding it, which is a huge achievement. Then,
that's amazing enough that you found what life is.
And he found it early on. So first he found it. He realized that he had this ability to locate it.
Yeah.
Then he had an ability to translate it into music. Then he had the ability to play it quite well because he was also very good at playing. And then do it over and over and over again, as you said, in different ways. But how many angles can the human species use to get at truth? And probably each attempt is valid, even in a strange, irrational way. And at the same time, even the most successful attempt doesn't really fully get there. No. So even with Bach, I feel like even he would admit, because of the glory of God, that his attempt is just the smallest step towards the fringe of the shadow of truth. Because if you actually saw truth, we probably would die instantly. Maybe that's what happens,
Right when you're going, do you think of that? Right when you go, you might see what it actually is all about?
Well, I like that idea because then it gives me something to slightly look forward to in the midst of a very scary and dreadful experience called dying.
Do you think you're a different writer because you studied this music?
Well, piano.
Yeah.
Piano for sure, because piano has you can play multiple notes at once. You don't have to make the note. The note is already made for you. You just have to press it. Versus like a flute or even a fiddle, you have to make the note, find the intonation, find the tuning. So piano is very user-friendly and lends itself very well to musical spontaneity and a kind of enthusiasm that can take over, which is especially great for a child. And I think, for rock music, I think rock music came out of the piano. Now, a lot of people dispute that, but if you go back to the roots of it, I think piano had that energy, and especially before guitars were full-blown and electrified, the piano had so much to offer, and it could fill up a space just from the pounding, that kind of vibe.
There's a movement there. There's an energy there.
Yeah, it's percussive, it's melodic, it's rhythmic.
I asked this question to someone recently too, because I also think when you play guitar, and I play guitar, I think that you rely on shapes. Like I don't see, for better or for worse, when I sit down and I play a chord, like the third position kind of G chord, right? I know that 4, 5, 4, and I can just go up and then 4, 5, and then 6, and it's all kind of based around shapes. Whereas I feel like with piano, the reason I wonder if piano players compose differently is because they don't necessarily see it in a series of shapes. They tend to see all of the map at once.
Maybe so. I mean, there are shapes because you do play chords.
Yeah, and there's but the way I play piano is I do like octaves in the bass.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And then triads, right?
Thing. Yeah. I mean that makes sense. And then with the octaves, you can just break things up more. I mean, it's only you benefit yourself in the music for most music to treat the piano as a whole band basically, and you have the bass, so why not use it as a bass? Plus, it doesn't sound that great playing chords down there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So.
But you have movement too. But you're not just playing lock chords. I saw this video of you playing "Party Hard" on. I think you had just given a talk and you played it on this old like a Roland keyboard, and it was like a fugue, man. Like it was so many different moving parts. You weren't just striking root notes in the bass. Everything was moving. I couldn't even believe you could sing while you were doing it.
Well, I have more. Well, that's very generous of you again, and I think a bit open. Some would say too open-minded, but I'm going to say just perfectly open-minded. I've had a lot more practice playing that song, so. Like the next song we're going to do, I've never played ever in this form, so we'll see what happens.
Well, before we get to that, I want to talk, if you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Andrew W.K. We're talking about his new record, You're Not Alone. The American Association of Suicidology named you their Person of the Year for 2018. They said the honor was due to his consistent and powerful use of positivity to improve the lives of those who hear his music. Andrew's message resonates with the field of suicide prevention in that he encourages people to use their capabilities to create a life worth living. What does that mean for you to receive an honor like that?
It's a bit baffling, but in the best way. Since I don't know a lot about that field, I just have to take their word for it. Since they do apparently know a lot about their field, as they should, and it's a very noble field to work in. But I relate to them in that the end goal seems to be to elevate and nurture and even worship the human spirit. and embolden it and feed it and recognize it. And that's certainly what I get from music. It's like the sound of the human experience, going back to what we were talking about before. So I just took it as them recognizing music specifically. And I suppose maybe more than some others, I've put that aspect of the musical encounter really up front.
Front and center. I really do feel like you have.
The music is sort of about music, even. Like the first song, Music is Worth Living For. That's very as straightforward as you can get. Music makes me want to stay alive. And being someone who has had an abundance, maybe even been gifted in negative emotions, music and the quest to follow what music seems to be telling us, desperately trying to tell us, has helped. It hasn't made the bad feelings go away, because I'm feeling them in extraordinary quantities right this second even, but it's put them into perspective, and it's made them mean something beyond just pure agony. There's a point to it. Even in that lyric in the first song, the pain was, I bet you never thought the pain was justified. But maybe there is a point for all this pain. Maybe this is growing pains. Maybe this is the feeling of a human soul expanding. And it makes sense that would hurt a little bit.
Someone said to me the other day, they said that maybe art isn't therapy, but maybe art is therapeutic. Is that it's not the cure, but it can help us with the problem.
Yeah, maybe so.
I have similar problems of feeling bad, and
okay. Well, most people do.
My mind is a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic, and I think I'm dying all the time.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. I'm dying out here right now.
It's the worst, but and it's happened to me while I've done interviews with people.
Oh yeah, it's happening at all times. That's how I feel most of the time. So we relate. But you still gotta do something. So.
But I found that listening to music and singing and playing guitar and singing songs that I love. You're right. It's not going to solve the problem, but it's going to help in the moment.
Let me see if it helps right now. I'm going to try this. Bang on a drum. Bang. No, didn't help.
Didn't help at all.
But that could have just been a fluke, so we shouldn't judge too strictly.
Let me ask.
Bang on a drum. Okay.
Did it work that time?
No.
Okay. So when I look you up on social media, I see so much of this line: Andrew W.K. saved my life. Andrew W.K. saved my life. I understand that you're grateful, and I also understand that it's somewhat baffling. But how does it feel to know that you're having not an ideological impact on people's lives, but perhaps a concrete change in people's lives?
I don't know how I feel about that idea. I don't have that feeling about it. I feel like we relate to one another.
Yeah.
And as much as they think I'm saving their life, they're saving mine. So it's this phenomenon, this essence of feeling that we're both interested in, that we're both seeking and creating together, that is saving us together. So I don't know.
Do people come and talk to you, when you talk about feeling bad and not feeling great all the time? I'm sure people come and talk to you and tell you their own stories.
Sometimes they don't.
But when they do, how do I put this?
I just say stay strong. What am I going to say?
What is that like for you, though, man? What is that like for you to hear that?
Well, I'm not really trying. I'm trying to conjure up a feeling, and for myself first and foremost. I'm not trying to be dismissive of it either. I don't know what anyone would say about that. I think it's a phenomenon about music specifically. I think if you're or in the arts, that people look to the person, the messenger, who's delivering this thing,
right.
And I'm completely comfortable with people identifying me with this phenomenon, but they should also, and I should remember that I am not the phenomenon.
Right.
I'm just there to help conjure it up.
But there's specific things, like just when you played that last song, it made me think positively about life. I hate to disagree with you, and you're it's very kind of you, but I think there are specific lyrics that you say that make people feel better and that give people hope. And it's not just the act of music. It's not just bang a drum. It's something deeper than that.
Well, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Because they're all. So my question.
What's the question?
When you're singing these things, are you singing them to yourself too?
Only. Yeah. So maybe that's the disconnect, because I can't be in someone else's mind. I can barely be in my own. So this all began as a way to cheer myself up. And I thought, okay, well, this is my project. This is what destiny seems to want me to do. So I'll do it. I'll sign up. I'll do the best I can. And I'm very thankful that the themes of this project are focused on feelings that I want to feel and ideas that I want to think about, and that the quest is centered around a type of transcendent, uplifting power. That's good, because that's what I need. But I don't know past that what someone else would think about it, and still the vast majority of the population doesn't even know that it exists. So it's like, I've heard people describe these things as you're whispering out a secret message that you don't even realize is secret, and someone else hears it. Now, why does that person hear it? And why are they able to decode the secret message over the din of all the other screaming that's going on? But someone, it's like a brother or a sister. We're in it together, and we relate to this very specific feeling. And maybe everyone else is feeling it too, and they're getting it from other things, or maybe it is this unique texture or flavor that I'm after, that I'm offering. I like to think it's a universal truth, and there's a million ways to get there, like we were saying before, and I'm one way. I have this party concept is one way to get to the heart of all things.
And it hits some people who probably haven't found that peace in other places.
Maybe. I hope that they find it in a lot of places.
But I think specifically they found it with you, and I understand that it's baffling, but I think there's something very admirable about that, Andrew. I really do.
It's an area. Well, thank you, and I'm not trying to be contrarian or to discount it, and I'm not even uncomfortable with it. There are large portions of this work that I don't have opinions about, and I can try to force opinions.
Yeah.
I can try to force understanding. I can try to analyze it and get very introspective, or certainly after the fact, go back and revisit things and try to understand how things have happened and why.
Yeah.
Or I can just keep up my end of the deal and try to complete these tasks that are presented to me. Sometimes I think trying to understand it or even having thoughts about it past a certain point is disrespectful.
It's counterintuitive to the thing you're actually trying to do.
Yeah, counterproductive.
I know that's something I struggle with on this show as well. Like, at what point do we stop talking about art? At what point do we just accept that it's happening?
Yeah, I'm really working on that acceptance, accepting everything, accepting that things are as they are, and yet not becoming so docile that you resign yourself.
But I think that finding out that you struggle, even just at the beginning of this, when you said, like, I'm not really having a good day, or like, I'm not feeling really good, I don't know when I am going to feel good. I think even though that's not the art, that's not the song, that made me feel something. That made me feel like, oh, this guy who I saw on Saturday Night Live doing Party Hard, and I was amped up, and I danced to it at my school dance, and everyone freaked out, to know that he, like me, like almost like you said, everybody I know, feels bad a lot of the time. That was meaningful to me, and that wasn't the art.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even calling it bad. It's just an intense feeling. It's just an intense feeling. I was talking with my guitar player, Eric. It's just, is it always going to be like this? Just, is it so exhausting to be alive? It's so intense all the time. And I've accepted it now that maybe is just how it's going to be. In fact, it probably will just get even more intense. Your capacity to handle more intensity is going to grow, and then you'll get given more intensity as a result. But I wonder, and maybe even fantasize about what it would be like to have things not feel that way, or are there people who just feel fine all the time, or most of the time? What would that even be like?
I've asked that question too.
Dare I even dream? Maybe that would be the worst. Maybe I think this is bad. Maybe that would be even worse.
I don't think there are, though. I think I'm starting to figure out that there's not.
They'd like us to think that there are, though. Yeah. Those people.
Andrew, it's great to talk to you.
Thank you for everything.